call this meeting to order. February 21st, 2022. First thing we want to do is to have everyone take a look at the agenda if you haven't already done so. And I'll open the opportunity to make any changes or additions to the agenda. Anyone have any additions? Yes, sir.
Yes, Mayor. I would like to add up front end to the mask mandate per governor's recommendation. Have a discussion with council so we know which way to move ahead.
So, as the manager said, the governor has ended the mandate, and we can make it optional here, or we can just say with no mask, whichever. How does the council feel about it?
Mayor, I would recommend an optional stance.
Optional.
As long as we can maintain 6 feet of distance, I think our first priority should always be to keep our residents safe. So if we can ensure, especially while they're in the chambers and moving throughout the facilities, if they can maintain that 6 feet. Otherwise, if they cannot, I do think that mask should be required just for everybody's safety. So optional, yes, I do agree, but if we cannot maintain that safe distance, that 6 feet, then maybe we should consider some type of have a mask if you can't maintain that distance. I guess if you so choose, I don't know.
So that's the current policy right now, if you're within 6 feet to wear a mask.
Yeah, that's our
So-
current policy.
But it's a requirement now.
Right.
I'm saying if you come into City Hall and I'm coming to pay my water bill and I'm just browsing through, I don't have to have on a mask, is what you're saying if we remove the mandate. However, if I'm in the chambers or a council meeting and I've got a row of 8 people and we're all on top of each other, if we can't implement some type of proper spacing right now, then I think we should still consider having some type of mask requirement for that.
So,
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
yeah, I do, but isn't that what we're doing now? Is that if you're not within 6 feet, you have to wear a mask?
If you're not within 6 feet, you don't have to wear a
Well,
mask.
we don't, yeah.
If you are, we're asking that you wear a
Yeah,
mask.
right. So
Currently.
that's our current policy.
So what the governor's recommending to schools and local governments is to end the mask mandate, which means it's optional, even within 6 feet. And we need to, since we've typically been following the governor's executive orders and directives, Wayne County is amongst the lowest in the state with case transmission right now. So just need to understand which way the council wants to go.
So let me ask a question. When we did the mask mandate in August, right? It was required that everyone coming into City Hall, city facilities, had on a mask, right?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and take a look at the
Yeah, well,
particular date and times for the
That's what it
different.
was. So now what we're saying is, if you're coming into City Hall or city facilities, you don't have to wear a mask unless you find yourself within 6 feet. I'm saying 2 different things. The first one said, no matter what, you have to wear one. Our new one will say, it's at your leisure, you're optional, unless you find yourself in a situation where you cannot maintain social distancing.
That's the current policy. So that would be no change to the policy, is what you're saying.
It is, maybe I'm not saying it correctly. Does anybody understand what I'm saying? I'm
That's what you're
saying
saying.
right now, it's mandatory for you to wear a mask, right?
Only if you're within 6 feet.
That's
Social
That's
distance.
our current policy.
Okay, well then I say keep it as it is.
I think we need to socially distance still within the audience of the chambers. So if there's any way we can mark the distance in the seating, as like Councilman Matthews said, if 20 people come and sit on one row and they're not having to wear a mask as opposed to the spacing. So like I said, since we currently have that policy, I think we need to keep what we currently have in place. It would be optional because in the school system, we also have the option, but I have a class of 25 kids and there's no way we can social distance in my classroom. So basically my kids, they've taken it upon themselves to continue to wear their masks, but if we leave it as an option, I think at least in the chambers or anywhere close proximity people are sitting, I think the reason we're at the milestone that we're at is because of masking. And if we just reverse it immediately, I think it'll revert back to what we, of course, I'm not a scientist, but I think that's the reason we're seeing lower numbers because of masking. So I think we should just keep it where we are as far as our parameters and distance, 6 feet. That's my stand.
So our current policy is that if you're within 6 feet of someone, you will wear a mask. If you're not, you don't have to wear a mask.
I'm fine with that.
Almost all the Wake County towns and the county itself gone to mask optional, and I don't see why we have to be any different. I mean, I think.
About over half the counties are now mask optional in the state of North Carolina.
And while I understand that, I still want us to just stay focused on keeping our people safe regardless as to what, everyone else is doing. Is there a possible way you guys can, I'm looking for the current policy, if you could send it to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
My concern is in the chambers. It's very close in there. We're in there. And I really think that we should wear masks because they are not sitting 6 feet apart. We don't have enough pews to do 6 feet. So I think we really do need to, we are down, and that's really good that we are down. And some people do not take COVID as serious as others do. And those that have been touched by COVID because of not following the guidelines are very sensitive. And so I'm very sensitive to this and wearing a mask. Now, I support the governor. I understand what he's doing. I understand the school system. But I really think that whenever it comes to the chambers, that we really do need to take a look at doing the 6 feet and the mask. And that's mine.
Okay, do I have a motion that we keep the keep the current policy, which requires that individuals within 6 feet of another one will wear a mask?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating the motion? I was reading the policy.
Okay, the motion is to keep our current policy of maintaining wearing a mask if you're within 6 feet of one other individual. Is there a second? I have a motion, is there a second? There's no second motion?
I made the motion. Yeah.
Oh, second, okay.
So you second? Okay. Any discussion?
I guess where my confusion was, the first line of our policy currently says, in light of the increasing number, and this can be found on our city website for those who are watching, in light of the increasing number of COVID-19 cases, employees and visitors, regardless of vaccination status, will be required to wear face coverings at all City of Goldsboro facilities. This requirement is effective beginning Monday, August the 23rd, period. Then it goes into the city employees and visitors will be required to wear a face covering mask when within 6 feet of another person inside the city facilities. So to me, that's already kind of confusing. You're telling me it's mandatory to wear it, and then we turn around and kind of contradict ourselves by saying when you're within 6 feet. So I think even that right there in itself, there should be some more clarity right there. Because the first, you just told me I have to wear it. And then if I keep reading, it says if I'm within 6 feet. So I think we should really clean it up a little bit.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor of keeping our policy as stated just now, and Councilwoman Matthews' reciting of the state policy, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion's carried to keep the current policy. Any additional changes to or additions to the agenda? If not, motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Mayor, a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay, the motion is adopted to keep the agenda, could I have the slide, next slide? Do we have a slide for this?
We have the mayor's opening slide.
Did we vote? Did we vote on the, did we vote on the? Yes, we did.
While she's bringing up the, you have that slide? Okay, so when we started putting together the agenda for the retreat, we asked for input, and we got some from the council, and I have sort of combined those with mine, and as you see on the slide, this is what I feel that the purpose of this this retreat is to address issues affecting the growth of Goldsboro services to our citizens and improvement of their quality of life, and what impacts on these issues. And this is not a complete list by any stretch of imagination, but these are some things that are currently that we need to think about. The growth of Goldsboro. Goldsboro is growing, regardless of what the census may have said 2 years ago. We're adding people to our city, and a lot of that growth is coming to the west and northwest of our city area limits and the county, caused by Wake, Barnett, Johnston County people, the growth there, and people moving into Wayne County. Johnson County is the fastest growing county in the state. That's causing increased residential construction in the west and northwest of Goldsboro and Wayne County. New industry growth since 2015 has, we've seen the examples of that, and there's still more to come, and that'll be spoken to here in a few minutes. And so how do we prepare and support this anticipated growth? We're going to be talking about that a little bit today and tomorrow. Our infrastructure, our utilities, we've talked endlessly about our utilities, and we need to look seriously, continuously at the development of a clear plan to prioritize and fund the needed repairs and expansion of our water sewer capabilities to serve the current and future growth. And then, of course, our roads and streets. And we'll have Jennifer coming in from DTO talk about that. And then, of course, we need to also talk about the revenue to the city, what we anticipate, and how those impact on the purposes that I stated up above. And we'll be given some information about the standards of our services to our citizens later on. And then, of course, while it's not a itemized item on the agenda, we need to also, we will talk a little bit about affordable housing and jobs. So there are other things, of course, that's on the agenda that are not included in this, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of information as to what I see things that we need to be concerned about. So with that, we'll go into the first presentation. I have Mr. Pope. I think all of us know Mark. He's been before the council several times, so no introduction is needed, I don't think, Mark. Thank you for coming. Anyway, you can introduce yourself so far as the audience is concerned.
May not need that. Well, good morning. I have been in front of y'all a lot lately, and that's been a good thing. But I'm Mark Pope, Senior Vice President of the Economic Development Region out of the Global Transport. but also president of the Wayne County Development Alliance, and have been working in economic development for about 18 years. Before that, my prior experience was 21 years in banking, so long it's stint in the economic development in one way or another. So you remember, I'll take you back to November of 2020 is when we developed the region. We brought Wayne County, Lenoir County, Greene County, and the Global Transport together under one entity to actually focus on economic development and raise one flag in order to recruit industries and retain the ones that we had. The counties and the state saw that what was going on is GTP, how that would be one of those anchors in bringing some of our military and some of our other companies together with agriculture, warehousing, distribution, housing, and the pharmaceutical industry. We saw those likenesses with those counties and what the state already had, and we said we ought to really focus on being united as one. And I think, ever since I've been in economic development, when you're in rural North Carolina, it's been kind of hard to get the attention of the folks in Raleigh and some of these recruiters and some of these site consultants when you go before them, because, if you're looking at a population of 50 or 30 or even 120, you really don't get the attention that a Wake or Greensboro or even a Charlotte or Winston-Salem may get because of their closeness to the interstates. So after those conversations, we said, when we all of a sudden bring in a entity that has over 200,000 in population, and we have 120 manufacturers that can really benefit in us as a like entity and bringing education and bringing a pipeline to them, plus be able to go after more assets, grants that we could help with these local industries. So we saw that, and we brought that together, and the county commissioners and the county managers really put that together and bringing that entity together. So we formed back in 2020, and I think we've had a great success story since then to saying that we can come together as one, erase some lines, and really show improvement for the quality of life for our citizens in eastern North Carolina. So let's see if I can make this work. Let's go this route. Here we go. So just get back to the mission of what our focus was as a region. And basically, as I said before, is to create a regional approach to economic development, bringing those entities and partnerships to attract business and retain those in eastern North Carolina. And I think we've done a very good job in doing that so far. Just to go back and reiterate that, since that 2020 date, we have made 15 announcements, 1,996 new jobs, and there's $262 million in capital investments that have been announced. Now that's great and that's good for what we set out to do, but it puts a lot of pressure on our community colleges in all our counties because they got to train a workforce. And as we've all heard with what's going on with COVID and the industries, you're seeing them with billboards going up to try to fulfill jobs and vacancies that they've had. So, this is great news, but we've got to do more, and we got to be able to get our community college, to be able to get our K through 12 schools engaged with what's going on in Eastern North Carolina. If you go back and see the average salary of these jobs, a lot of times when we look at average salary for Wayne County, North County, and even Greene County, 39 or below. You look at just about every one of these, they're all above that average wage. But if you look at some of these, they're bringing in average wages from 40 up to 60. You look at some of the things going to GTP say, there's opportunity in Eastern North Carolina today that has surpassed what we had in the past. And that's a good thing. It's all about opportunity and what you create for your youth and for folks needing jobs. Just to break down, if you look at the different counties, I want to give you kind of a breakdown of each one of those. If you look at Greene County hadn't had any announcements. Since that 2020, we made 2 announcements over there, or 3 exactly. There's 320 jobs and $13 million in capital investment over there. Global Transport had 3 announcements. Dropping FRCs and Flight Exclusive, 320 jobs, $14 million. If you look at Greene County, 87 jobs, $6.6 million. What's so significant about what's going on with Global Transport and these Department of Defense contractors, we have tried, since my career, at 17, 18 years in economic development, breaking the barriers so we could get more Department of Defense contractors because of their wages, because of their skill sets, and because of our military and those exiting the military. The key one up there is Rocket International, the adversary group that located. A lot of y'all probably have seen Top Gun. So the adversarial A4s that's in Top Gun is Rocket. Actually, one of the WCDA, and that's one of the mandates John wanted to happen, so it can happen faster and going through some of the hurdles and some of the red tape that municipalities and local government have to do. So we do have our queue out there right now, so we're moving pretty fast when we get it. It only satisfy what not all people need it for that one facility. It also reach back Ashford into the military base. So hopefully it will kind of give the capacity that and some needs that the city will need for future growth. So it's a step in the right direction. Is it a fix-all? No, it's not. But it is kind of a steps level to create more capacity.
Sir, I have a question. On that slide, you had AP emissions. I know Goldsboro High School is the school I teach at. They have a program housed there. Are there going to be any other recruitment, I guess, ways that we can recruit from these other jobs as far as advertisement within our county and inner city before we outsource so we can keep jobs in our cities? There a plan for that?
So, AP emissions, they added those jobs. We don't know the investment of those 96 jobs, but that's an e-commerce. And that was the way of the future during COVID.
Yes, sir.
Those guys really impressive with what they do at AP emissions. Who their partners are, who some of their customers are. So, yes, but they go to Lake Community College, credit folks, those folks,
Yes, sir.
kind of guiding them with job hiring. And that's the neat thing about our community college system. They can really take a lot of pressure off of existing industries and our new industries as far as figuring out who are those candidates, who fits the mold that really can move into the job position quickly to fill those positions. So yes, we make sure of those. Any other questions on that before So as we've had a lot of successes, and with success, we've just about depleted our supply of inventory for economic development as far as buildings that we have available. We've got both Cooper standards. One, Pamlico Air went in. The second one is being leased by a company. There's more to come. And really that was the last building besides our shell building that we had that was really meeting the needs of industry today. It used to be, 18 to 20 foot ceiling heights would meet the needs, but that's well below what we got to have now. Our shell building was 35 foot ceiling heights, and that's kind of the norm. 30 to 35 foot ceiling heights is what you have to have. So we've done a lot of work, with our Park East out off of 70 Business behind Deacon Jones. We got a lot of allies and partners out there, including the Ivies that own the other property around what WCDA and Wayne County own in that park. So our shell building was in Lot 8, and it's out now. So it's been sold. So we were actually going out to bid for a pad-ready site in Lot 23. We will, by the commissioner's kind of direction, we will build one or two more shell buildings either on Lot 23 or we may look even on Lot 18 for one of those. So product is the key. And this part has all of it. Our partners with Norfolk Southern with rail. We've got Duke Energy with a substation. There's only two that has the capacity of power, and that's Wilmington and Park East. That's the two largest in the state that can give the capacity. So we get a lot of looks at Park East. So that's why we got to make sure we have water, sewer, and gas in that facility, and we do. Gas is always an issue for rural North Carolina. We'll fight that battle continuously just because of the capacity issues. The ACP, you remember that a couple of years, that would have probably relieved some, but we still have a deficit on high volume gas. But there are some things we can do, and we're pursuing that. Second is the business campus. The county entered into agreement and option back in, I think, 2016-17. It's about 110 acres. This is off Pate Town Road. So the county actually went after a grant, the Department of Commerce got a $1.8 million grant to do some infrastructure for entranceways, signage, roadway completion, and landscaping. So phase one actually will be, if you look at above the blue line, this last cul-de-sac, that's kind of phase one. So that was some of those needs for that $1.8 million. When I got over here, we started to work on that, started getting permitting. And sometimes you run into some things that other folks weren't aware of. So in doing some of the due diligence and permitting to get started, an archaeological problem popped up on this campus. As most of eastern North Carolina, we have historical sites. We have where battlefields were fought, and a lot of buttons, a lot of ceramic bowls, and a lot of military maybe implements that were left. So that popped up when we were getting some of our permits. So it kind of put that on hold until that got somewhat of a remedy. They have, the folks from the state have actually allowed us to continue phase one, phase two with some of the ditches and some of the things they found on this side and in the back of the park. We're going to have to work through that. I hope as we move forward, we've got folks that are interested in being in the lot 6 and lot 1 parcels. We've got a business incubator for $22,000 that we've got already planned, spec, had it bid out, ready to go. So that'll go on one of either 2 or 5, one of those lots in there. So we're going to grow that park. And what we hope we can do with the folks with the archaeological area is, we recognize the importance of our history, but we want to recognize it with signage and proper way that you can go see that and look at all those things and remember ancestors and things like that. But we want to grow jobs. That's our key focus in Wayne County and Goldsboro, is to grow jobs. So as we go forward with these 2 or 3 projects and we start creating jobs, we hope we can go back to them and say, we recognize this, but we really are trying to do stuff for the people in our community and create opportunities for them. So we'll see how that goes. But we have, the RFQ is out, went out the 1st of February. We should have bids back in by, I think, February 25th, I believe is the date on that. So you'll see some construction and dirt moving out there pretty soon.
Mark, can I interrupt there? Part of this agreement the city is signed on to, right?
Yes.
And the city's responsibilities are,
Water and sewer.
and are we getting part of that? Are we getting that grant for the phase one to support those requirements?
And there's, and again, getting into that, water and sewer by the city, there were some agreements made in that, so I think there's some use that can be used for water and sewer. The key on that, though, is if you look at the water and sewer, really comes down to right beside the main highway. That white building up above lot 2 is TA 11. So there's a main line for sewer that runs right beside the ditch in there. So we don't see a lot. We know what actual industry goes in there. Most of these will be small. This is not a park that can handle a Mount Olive pickle, can't handle a Sanderson, or can't handle a Case. It just doesn't have the infrastructure. Number one, that if you look at Pate Town, that road traffic, until we get some remedies there, the DOT has told us that we would get a 3rd lane down Pate Town to almost to the church. But we got to do some recruiting, get some industry in there. But the industry is small. It'll be small little distribution companies, folks that may roll out to expand. So I think that's what our niche is. The companies that have called us are 50 or less companies that need some expansion availability. This will provide that. So we'll get to each one of those. I don't see a big need in water sewer for what you already have, except for taps, and you have to run lines to them. So I don't see a lot of that. So just to get the whole gamut, we still have a park down at Mount Olive. We gotta work through the water and sewer needs that gotta be, addressed down there. So we'll just see that. It has a lot of potential. It's by the airport. You know, now Pickle owns a lot of these buildings out there. You know, Highway 55's in there. So it'll be a good little park. We've done a lot of work, but we've got to wait on the town to move forward with that. So in a nutshell, that's kind of where we are today since 2020. Again, where we are is product. We are lacking product. That's what we have to do in all three counties, the GTP, and that's the future needs of our opportunities. So we're working very hard with our partners, EDA. We've got some grants in EDA for some shell buildings. Golden Leaf, we had Golden Leaf was here on Friday. We've got meetings with them in each one of the counties to talk about those needs. Duke Energy has already contacted us about what can they do to help us in standing up shell buildings, what can their role be. So I think all our partners in the state of North Carolina recognize that for us to be successful right now, all of North Carolina doesn't have product. We got a lot of bean fields, we got a lot of fields out there, but people and these companies right now won't exist in buildings. If I had 3 or 4 of these 50,000 square foot buildings in Wayne County and Goldsboro now, I could have already sold it. That's how much the demand is. It has not slacked off. All our folks are telling us we've got another 18 to 24 months of this kind of rapid growth with these industries. Northeast, California, you look at those West Coast, we'll be out in Seattle in April on a recruitment mission with the aerospace. So the opportunity is out there. So we've got to have something to attract them other than just a park. We've got to have a building. We've got to be doing that. If you've started it, like our pad ready site, we've sent it out, and folks have noticed that. We have one company that already, as soon as we hit it on our social media, we had a company call us and wanted to do a 1031 exchange. So we got 6 months to get the pad ready, and they are put that in that exchange and wanting to buy that pad ready site. And that's all we got to do. You just got to show that you're moving forward and being progressive. Today, is it a shell building? How quick can you stand it up? And how quick are you moving to put one up? So that's where we are today. So with that, I'll stop. And I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Bottom line, Mark, is you see growth continuing for the Wayne County, Goldsboro area?
I do. I think, with what we've got with I-42 out here in front of us, we've got 795, our closeness to 40. If you look at Wake County, they've had a lot of wins. Everybody can't live in Raleigh. It's pushing, it's already pushed Johnson County, is kind of getting to their limit, and it's starting to filter into Wayne County, and it'll continue to. So what do we have to be available is, or be ready for is those opportunities, housing, and other things, because those folks are they're coming this way.
Yep.
It's nothing to get from Goldsboro to Raleigh now, and that's been our selling point. When we talk about our area, we talk about a 75-mile radius. We don't recruit just saying Goldsboro has X amount, or Kinston has X amount, or Greene County or Snow Hill has X amount. We talk about 75 miles out, how far do we have, and we got over 1 million, probably close to 1.5 million people now that we say we can actually touch in that 75-mile radius. That's key. People like from California, we've had a couple of those companies from California, one going to Cooper Standards from Arizona. We talk about a mile a minute, and their whole different calculation is maybe an hour a minute, or hour a mile. So that's a selling point for us, and that's what we drill down is, what is our community college system, how close are we to our state universities, how close we are to our military and those excellent people that are around us. So that's what we push on, and that's what the region really gives us the capability of doing. It's talking about how big and how much in a 75-mile radius, since you've got infrastructure with roads to get them in and out. And that's key.
No other questions? Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
If I may, so you talked about housing just for a second there, and obviously the city of Goldsboro wants to be in a position
to have these people live in Goldsboro and play and shop in Goldsboro. What can we do? And this, I realize I didn't give you any warning this question was coming. But what can the city of Goldsboro do to help with the quality of life businesses, to help with the housing businesses, the housing options, to make your job easier when you are trying to sell an executive from Seattle on the idea of living close to a facility in Goldsboro? What are those things we can do to make your life easier?
Well, I'll tell you, Goldsboro and Wayne County are ahead, miles ahead of our partners, and that's not being ugly. It's just obvious. You know, if you look at housing developments that are already underway and what you've already started, that's a plus. You know, these new executives will want to see executive living, executive housing. Is it townhomes? Is it gated communities? And really, you know, you started that. Key is you've always got to show that you're business friendly. You're proactive and you're out there wanting business to be here. You want them to grow here. You want them to build their buildings here. You want to be able to provide for them. Housing and education are the two top. That's what we get asked. How are you going to fill my jobs? Where are you filling them from? And we want them to be, wherever they are, we want them to be in that same community. It's not going to happen. That's a fallacy that is not. You got water in Newbern that's not that far away. You got a college at Greenville that's not that far away. It's just attraction. And I'll get back to the old saying, whatever makes mama happy makes everybody happy. So mama or daddy, whichever one it is. But that's the keys to those things. Education, make sure we're ahead on the education. Housing, make sure you're developing new housing. And you got to look at executive housing. If you want those top tiers to live here, make sure you got something to attract them. And I do think Goldsboro is ahead, like I say, of some of our other partners. You know, even look at Snow Hill, Cutter Creek, what Camel Cray has done over there at Cutter Creek on the golf course. That's starting to get a lot of traction because people are seeing that. He doesn't gate it, but he's got a housing where he can gate it out there. There's more houses going up. It's just, he started, and now I think it'll be an attraction. So that's my thought.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Barry, introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Barry Gray. I am the planning director for Wayne County. I've been with Wayne County for the past 4 years. Prior to Wayne County, I was planning director in Johnston County, and I was there for about 16 years. But I've enjoyed Wayne County. Wayne County actually is home. This is where I was born and raised, so just went to Goldsboro. So I do have a love for this area and a love for this county. And I know your time is short, so I'm going to kind of go through this fairly quickly. I kind of looked at a broader view, I guess, of the county. I don't have any particular numbers, but I did want to address that first slide talking about the growth or the future growth and kind of where you're going to see that. We talked about Johnston County, Wake County, and the growth there, but I do want to give you a few more specifics there because I think this has implications on Goldsboro and Wayne County over the next 10 to 20 years. You know, right now, there's a bottleneck in Wake County on I-40. Everybody knows that. It's hard to commute from the east to the west and then back. But right now, there's a project underway to widen that road. Should be open in the next couple of years, within the next couple of years. In addition, which I think is key too, is 540, which is the toll road, will connect in right there where you could essentially basically bypass downtown Raleigh and go straight to But basically, you'll be able to bypass downtown Goldsboro or Raleigh on the south and go straight to the RTP. There's other projects underway to improve that corridor in Wilson's Mills in Johnson County. If you're familiar with that area, those interchanges are going away. Those should be removed in the next couple of years. So the only barrier essentially between Goldsboro and Raleigh and the RTP will be the 2 stoplights in Princeton. And of course, as you're familiar with the 70 corridor project, those are planned to be removed, and then that corridor becomes I-42, and there's a push to, of course, accelerate that project. So over the next 10 years, I think you're going to see, with the easier access to Raleigh, that Wayne County is in a good position. And right now, we're in a good position because I think we do have a little time to prepare for that, but I do believe it is coming. Additionally, the housing cost in Wake County, with the new projects there coming in, industrial projects that are driving up those costs, Wayne County is still affordable for most folks. And with folks now being able to work from home and maybe only have to go in 1 day a week, it also makes living further out more attractive as well. We do see that. We see a lot of interest from Wake County right now in Wayne County. From developers, out-of-county developers who are looking at this area. So I do want to mention this map really quick. And as you can see, the red areas are basically single-family housing. It's not the best map because it is a polygon. Basically, it just outlines the parcels where a home was built versus a dot. But it does give you an idea of where we have seen over the past 10 to 20 years of development in the county. And you can see it is on the west side and north side. It kind of is almost an arc from basically Rosewood around the northern side of Goldsboro and then on down southeast to Walnut Creek. Walnut Creek's been fairly attractive in those areas around Walnut Creek. You can see the southern part of the county. There's been some scattered homes built over the past 10 to 20 years, but of course you can see most of our development has been pretty much along the 70 corridor or just north of that. Now, I do want to kind of zoom in just a little bit here around Goldsboro. One area we're seeing a lot of interest in is just west of town there where Walmart is. I believe Walmart's in the city limits and some of those parcels, those commercial parcels, but a lot of those vacant tracts that are still in the county's jurisdiction, we've had a lot of interest in those. And as you know, if you drive through there, you see a lot of that land is for sale. So it is becoming more attractive to developers for both commercial and residential in those areas. So I think over the next several years, you're going to see that area change quite a bit. And again, that is where the interstate will come in, of course, when it goes through Princeton and provide a direct connection to Raleigh and potentially the RTP. And then, of course, you can see the north end, which is where the Buck Swamp area, of course, that's historically where we've seen quite a bit of growth. And I don't want to step on your toes, you're playing the record toes, but I did have, this information actually comes not from permitting, but it comes from our tax office. Basically, you can identify when new homes, were added to the tax roll and what year they were added and what year they were built. So this comes from our tax records, actually, where new homes were constructed. And so, so you can see in Goldsboro's jurisdiction, you do have quite a bit of new homes, new units on the north side of Goldsboro. Between 70, of course, and 75 past that area seems to be rather popular here in the town as well. Anyway, I thought this was pretty neat to kind of see kind of where that growth is in the county. Finally, I do want to mention the census really quick. I know everybody knows that Wayne County and Goldsboro has been identified as losing population. And you can see those numbers and what the loss is for each town. I will point out Pikeville and Eureka are the two that the census shows that it's actually grown in population. Wayne County as a whole has lost about 5,300. Goldsboro around 2,780. Mount Olive almost 400 and so forth. But I do want to point out this is the first census since 1790 that has shown Wayne County as losing population. That's never been the case. And I do want to say why that's important here. As part of the census, they look at housing units, the census does, and they've shown that Wayne County has lost 400 housing units over the past 10 years. But our records on those previous maps, our tax records show that we added around 2,400 housing units in Wayne County over the past 10 years. That does not include mobile homes in the county. I did not include those because mobile homes are hard to identify as whether they're new or a replacement. A lot of people will replace a mobile home with a new mobile home, so it was hard to identify if they were actually new residential units. So this is just site-built structures, whether it's multifamily units, townhomes, condos, or single-family. So if the census shows that we lost 400 units in the county, but we also constructed 2,400 units, then we have lost essentially 2,800 housing units in Wayne County over 10 years. I do agree that there have been some housing units lost. We've had flooding, we've had some buyouts. There are some areas where homes have been either removed or they're no longer lived in. We know that, but 2,800 is an extreme number. And I say this also because these numbers can be, you can go to the census and argue this, but you cannot argue your population. You cannot say you miscounted. They will not recount. The only thing you can do is argue your housing units. You can tell them, or you have to prove to them that you've lost, or that they have shown housing units removed that were not removed. So I think jurisdictions have until the middle of next year, 2023, if they want to go through that process. So this is something you may want to consider in your jurisdiction, is to look at those housing units and see if they compare to what the Census Bureau shows, so that you can actually go to them and see if they'll reconsider that. Only other two things they'll consider is an incorrect boundary, or if your housing units were counted in the wrong location. So if they counted a housing unit over in Wayne County that didn't include it in Goldsboro's jurisdiction, even though it's part of your jurisdiction, you can argue that. But you cannot just go in and say you've undercounted this area. You actually have to show housing units that they miscounted the numbers. So anyway, with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you have about Wayne County, our growth, or any projects we're potentially seeing.
Any questions? Okay, Barry.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Calvin?
Barry, does the county plan to compress?
We're looking at the numbers. If we can find housing units, I'm pretty sure we're going to present that to our board and see if we can get. So we are looking at that.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So Mayor Ham asked me to come up with my thoughts and ideas for how we are seeing development trends within the city's jurisdiction. I'm just going to share a few of those trends today, and if you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the presentation. So, most of you are aware this is the city of Goldsboro city limits and our 1 mile ETJ. The area in yellow is our corporate city limits. All the areas in the gray areas are 1 mile ETJ. I want you to concentrate, if you will, upon the 3 intersections along the new Highway 70 interchange to our north. One being 70-581. Most of you know this is the Rosewood area, Rosewood Walmart developments. Number 2, 70 and 117 interchange. Number 3, 70 and Wayne Memorial Drive. 4, 70 and 13. Off the purple. No, it's it. And number 5, 70 and Parkstown Road. So this slide here is a representation. We went back 3 years and looked at development that took place throughout the city of Goldsboro. This is development for the year 2019. In 2019, we had 22 site plan reviews. 9 were brand new developments, 13 were renovations, expansions to existing sites. If you will, pay attention to what we refer to as our hot zones, 1, 2, and 3. As you can tell, those zones appear in the vicinity of the interchange at 581 and 70, and 2 there at 117 and William Street, and 3, as you'll see, along the East Ave Street corridor, 70 at our Goldsboro Village Park, this area. We, in the city planning department, along with our GIS analyst, Mr. Jeff Cook, is here today. We looked at these trends and saw that where most of our activity was taking place just off of a visual analysis. So please keep this in mind as we go to site plan review of 2020. As you see, 2020, once again, those areas in red are a little hard to see. But again, we had hot zones in the same areas for 2020 site plan reviews. We had 33 site plan reviews, 11 were new, 22 were renovations, expansions to existing sites. Site plan review for 2021, we had 25 site plan reviews. And once again, it was interesting to see through the map how hot zones 1, 2, and 3 were still prevalent as developing areas within the city's jurisdiction. So when you combine sites 19, 20, and 21, you can see where there was quite a bit of development once again in those areas, 1, 2, and 3. In the slideshow presentation, you'll see in 19, we had several substantial developments to take place. ECPC Medical Office Place, a Hospital Road, Portable Suites off of Sunburst Drive, Wayne Community College's Collision and Repair Auto Center, Private Car Wash off of Berkeley Boulevard, Circle K, William Street, 117 intersection, with a car wash at 70 West Rosewood Shopping Center, Renew Life off of Wayne Memorial Drive, and Lot 6 Goldsboro Business Park. We look at site plan review for 2020, again, significant developments with Allen Grading off of Arrington Bridge Road, regional paint specialists off of Country City Road. See the Ace Hardware and Flex Space off of 111 South. Just some others. Precision Tune off of Spence Street, Discount Tire, Berkeley Boulevard, St. John's Sawmill off of Belfast Road. Significant multifamily development activity off of Adair Gardens and Villas at Adair Place, again, which is off of Highway 70 West in the Rosewood community, as well as the development of our Magnolia Grove here, phase 1 off of 11th Street. Lastly, in 2022, again, developments of significant are Keller Way, another multifamily development off of Highway 70, News Hospitality, where you see the Highway 70 Wayne Memorial Drive intersection. There's commercial development activity at that intersection. Goldsboro asphalt plant off of Highway 70 West. And Magnolia Grove, again, phase 2 is getting ready to start. So a couple of things we wanted to, as trends and indicators for the city of Goldsboro, commercial development activity has increased along Highway 70 West. We believe that this trend will continue to increase along the Highway 70 corridor, specifically at 70 and 581. 70 and 117 North, and along the 70 Wayne Memorial Drive interchange. There is an increase in new single-family development, specifically at the Magnolia Grove off of 11th Street, off of Wayne Memorial Drive. You're going to see, again, that proposed development was for 301 single-family homes. Multifamily developments as well. We've had activity along Adair, 70 West. 3 multifamily development complexes being proposed there. Tiffany Gardens at Central Heights Road. And others in conversations with developers who have talked with us in private at City Goldsboro's Planning Department. We do believe that there's strong indications that multifamily developments will increase to meet or in hopes of meeting current housing demands for the area, and that strong indications that existing and new industrial parks will see an increase in development activity. Of course, you heard what Mark said, Mr. Mark Pope earlier. We are definitely seeing activity within Park East Industrial Park. We're also seeing that as well in the activity that's going on in the new Goldsboro Business Park on Highway 70. On Baytown Road. Let's see. To my professional opinion, that as our economy continues to open up from the pandemic, that there will be more demand for multifamily development will increase as a result of limited housing supply, increased housing demand, inflation, rising interest rates, and surging home prices. Just strings what we have seen within our department. If you have any questions, please let me know, and if I can answer any.
Have any questions?
I have a question. Could you go back to the increase, and I don't know this, increase in new single-family and multifamily developments? I know that there was a 80-unit built, it was at Tiffany Gardens or New Hope Road. Can y'all help me remember?
Tiffany Gardens is in the process of the first phase.
Okay, they're in the process,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. So their place is in the process.
Adair Gardens was recently issued a certificate of occupancy for a new multifamily dwellings at Highway 70 West, close to the vicinity of the Rosewood Shopping Center. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and Magnolia Grove is in process. Good. Well, I was trying to process what you said about the loss of housing. And I wanted the city to challenge as well, because I think that we have had some more housing.
We have, Councilwoman Jones, we're seeing the housing, obviously with Magnolia Grove off of 11th Street, we hope to see that continue to take off. But with regards to other housing developments in the city of Goldsboro, I can speak to Mears Bluff, which is off of Baytown Road, just outside our city limits to the north. But there's another 50 additional lots for single family development there. And as well as there's a development called Glenda's Point off of Calabrese Road, which is also increasing in single family development. So there's it's nice to know that we've got these developments taking place, but there is a strong demand for housing, but unfortunately there's a lack of supply in Wayne County. So anyway, hopefully we'll see more of that as the time goes by.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ken.
Yes, sir.
I asked these 3 planning folks to come in and talk about what's going on, what's planned for the future. So we keep in mind that Goldsboro is changing, and I hope so far this has provided some insight of what is happening. I'm sure things on a smaller scale that wasn't mentioned here, but nevertheless, Goldsboro will continue to grow. And we, as I said before, we need to be prepared to provide the facilities, the infrastructure, and other services for them. So with that in mind, we're going to turn now to our public utilities and Bert Sherman, our interim director.
Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Let me introduce myself to some folks. You might not know who I am. You might have seen who I am. I first started out with the city of Goldsboro as a waste treatment plant operator in 1994. 5 years later, I became the wastewater superintendent. Been the superintendent for about 22 years, if I'm not mistaken, and been with the city for 27. Fortunately, and unfortunately at the same time, I took the role as the interim public utilities director after Mike Wagner left. As such, when I do explain to this is my first time doing this, so if I sound like I'm instructing you instead of telling you what this is, that's what I'm used to doing, okay? Just for capital projects that we have going on through the American Rescue Plan, we have the water treatment facility, an automatic transfer switch. The new River pump station is another automatic transfer switch that switches for the generator systems that we do have at those facilities. We also have Westbrook pump station. It needs a new generator also. Right now, if you guys remember, during the hurricanes, especially during Matthew and Florence, we had a really hard time keeping that generator going there. The fuel storage in that generator is not sufficient for a 6-day event out there. When you cannot get nobody out there to fill that fuel tank because of the flooding issue, it's good to have a tank that can sustain the days that we can't get nobody out there, okay? New Hope pump station bar screen. You're going to see a pecan bar screen and the aerator rehab on one of our basins at the WRF. These are all related to just wear and tear on the system, okay? The bar screens at Pecan, it's the original piece of equipment, and I think it was developed in 1994, if I'm not mistaken. New Hope bar screens, the original piece of equipment, that was installed just before I was hired for the city of Goldsboro. All these are aging out. It's not the point that we need to just get new ones. What's happening, it's to the point where we cannot do our maintenance on these anymore, and just to do the maintenance on these, it's not cost effective. We need new equipment for these facilities, okay? The bulk chemical tank, that's over at the water reclamation facility. When I say that, I'm going to say WRF because it's easier for me to say. So, the water plant effluent flow meters, they're obsolete. I wouldn't say obsolete, but they are showing age themselves. They're hard to calibrate, and they need new equipment in there so they can calibrate them so they'll read properly. Concrete flood barriers. Those are the barriers that we use during the floods. It's not when it's going to, or if it's going to happen, it's when. We know it's going to happen. Been with the city, like I said, 27 years. I've been through, let's see, Fran Floyd, Matthew, Florence, and any other king that comes my way. I was at when they flooded the waste treatment plant, I was there. I was one of the operators that had to close that facility down. During Matthew and Florence, I was one of the operators that were camping out there for 6 days out there where no one could get to us. Okay, so these are items that are necessities, especially for the water plant, because the water plant was also stuck in that same situation where no one could get to them. Okay. CITI replacing program obsolete radios. These are our SCADA system. This is a system that lets us know if we have a lift station that's overflowing, or if we have power outages at our stations. These are needed by the state. The state requires us to have these out there. The radios that we have out there are now obsolete. They do not make this radio anymore. Through CITI, they are going to help us program the obsolete radios that are there. The feasibility study for the relocation of the new water plant. In the CIP, we have a new water plant that's supposed to be in fiscal year 28. I'm going to guess it's going to probably be out a little bit further. The feasibility study is where we're going to find out where to put that water plant, and hopefully it'll be out of the floodplain. That is also in the project. And then there's some clear well repairs to seal and paint at the water plant. These are just aged items that need to be taken care of, and it's showing. Other major projects we got going on, for instance, talking about the water plant feasibility study, the $600,000 just to find out where to put that study at, or that plan at. This water plant is 70 years old. That piece of equipment that's that little structure that's right there, that was built in the 50s, and that draws off the Little River, okay? This is how old this facility is. Any questions on that aspect of it? Yes, sir.
I have a question on your previous slide. So, being your level of expertise, you started with the city 27 years ago as an operator.
Yes.
How many of these issues do you feel that we should have addressed maybe a decade or more ago that we were waiting on? Because I can show you how far back I go. We used to train at the fire department. When I first got hired, that's where we took our agility test, at that training ground. And I heard years ago in '99 that some of those issues in '99 should have been addressed then. So if you were to just guesstimate how many of these issues were pending issues that far back?
I would say right when you were talking about, these are original equipment, the ones that I'm telling you about.
Yes,
so that's how long in the past. So yes, and it's not due to lack of maintenance, it's just because it's age of the equipment.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I have a
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
Back to this slide. So this 2.6 is the amount that we need to replace the stuff, am I correct?
This is what's going to be funded through, yes, through the American Rescue Plan.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. I want to make
This
sure.
was decided in the last budget cycle.
Right, yeah, that's
Yes,
what I
ma'am.
was getting at, to make sure that this
And
is
I'll
where.
have a presentation tomorrow to talk about.
Okay, yeah, that's
how
where
we're
this money is
gonna pay
going.
for that, but this has not been spent yet.
Okay.
And with the delays in supplies, it'll likely roll into the next budget cycle.
Yeah, that's where I was going, that we had allocated the money for this. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm good, thank you.
You'll probably see this today when you tour out to the water plant. The structure where the said basins are cracking, okay? It's old, it's 70 years old. You'll see some spots where they addressed the issues once before. They had it stopped for a while, but we have to do it again. We've got a study in through, I think it's where there's right now. We're spending $26,000 just to evaluate that situation, just to see if there's any serious damage to that, and how far do we have to go to see if we can make it to fiscal year 2028 for the new station. Okay. Now my baby, the water reclamation facility. As you can see, we had an upgrade that was done in 1999 and 2000 time frame. During that time frame, we built our capacity up to 14.2 MGD, million gallons per day. During the year of 2021, we exceeded our 80-90 rule, where at 80% flow capacity, we are supposed to be in the process of trying to remedy the reason why we have so much flow coming to that plant. Okay? We're at about 89% of capacity at this point in time. Permittedly, we're at roughly about 80%. Okay? The average daily flow for last year was 11.3 MGD. And just to give you an idea of how we got there was, if you remember during January of last year, all the rain events that we did have, the flow for the month of January last year was 16.73, yes, correct, thank you. This year, in January, we're at 9.15, okay? We dropped drastically. This is all due because of rain events, I&I, inflow structure. We have to process this through my plant. I shouldn't say mine, our plant.
February was worse, right?
February was worse. It was close to 20 MGD. That's every day 20 MGD went through that plant for the month of February. This year, I've got almost 9.5 going in. So you tell by the dry months and the wet months, this is what's going on. At this point in time, I'm just making you aware that we're going to have to do something to address the I&I issue to the water reclamation facility.
And Bert, your upper right-hand number, 65 million, is a more recent estimate than what was previously estimated at 35 million.
That's
to
correct.
add a fifth basin, correct?
That's correct. And it's all due to product. Just alone brick, mortar, steel, this is what's driving that cost up. Okay? Every year that we hesitate, it keeps going up and up and up.
So based on that, the most cost-effective approach to trying to address the overall problem, which is capacity, is it to address I&I, to spend money trying to map our flows, figure out where our leaks are, fix them, or is it to spend $65 million on it?
Yeah, both. Sir.
I understand both. I'm saying which is the most cost-effective on a limited budget?
Some would say build a new basin, okay? And then some will say, well, let's just take care of the I&I issue. Now, we are taking care of some of the issue over there on Cherry Hospital aspect, 117 area, through Project Butter and through another grant that we have with Big Cherry. The Neuse River runs along the Big Cherry lines, okay? That's where we're finding a lot of our I&I from. So what they're doing is basically going to build a new Cherry Hospital lift station to eliminate Big Cherry and Little Cherry stations and have new lines. So that way, when the river does come up past 13 feet, we're not getting the river water coming in. So that's another way of trying to take care of that issue. 117 is also on the river also. So during Project Butter, we're trying to upgrade that facility also to do that. Time will tell. I don't know if that's going to fix the whole issue.
Of course not.
We don't have a crystal ball, but indications are pointing right there in those areas because it's so old. I don't know if you've ever been out there, but you could probably make a scary movie out of some of the structures that are out there.
Can I speak generically to that? I am Roe O'Donnell. I'm temporary assistant city manager, and I've been helping Bert and Bobby on putting together this presentation here. The one thing that I would mention about I&I studies, you really don't know how much you're going to get out of it. But from experience, and I've been through those before, when you're talking about flows, dry weather flows in the nines,
yes.
9 million gallons a day dry weather flow, you might get up to 1 million back. So 1 million gallons per day, that equates to 3 or 4 really large subdivisions. So you could get a significant amount back. How much will that cost? It depends on whether you have to upsize lines or not. If some of your lines need to be increased in size, like your outfalls that run along the creeks towards the river, that that's very expensive too. But, you know, this project here will give you about, what, 3.5?
Yes.
3.5 million gallons per day. So it's everything in scale. This needs to be done anyway at some point. I'll be back there.
Thank you, Bill.
Any questions?
Thank you.
One of the other projects that we're going to be budgeting is the water tanks. We spend $490,000 a year to maintain these tanks. That includes painting them, the preventive maintenance, cleaning, and any repairs that need to be made. This is something that we have to do yearly on this. Neuse River dredging. Do you remember anybody talking about dredging the river? Okay. During last year, I think it was in October, we had a weir plate or weirs installed at the Neuse River Dam. That rose the river up high enough so that we could take in water during drought seasons or during the summer months. During that time, that's usually when we do our dredging because of the way the river goes and the sand builds up. Well, ever since we put that new weir in for our benefit, we won't be able to use excavators in the water anymore. We're going to have to use floating barges or floating dredges to get that taken care of. That being said, with those weirs, it's supposed to not eliminate, but reduce the buildup of sand in that area. So during the months of May and April, staff will go out and measure that area to make sure that the sand levels are current and they're appropriate for that time, so whether we need to dredge or not. The bottom line is, if we have to dredge, it's going to cost $200,000 to do. If we do not have to dredge, just normal maintenance is going to be about $80,000 just around the intake structure. Water reclamation facility. We're back again at my facility. You're looking at the sand filters. This is one of the last processes that we have before we disinfect and send it out to the river. This structure was built in 1983. We are having a hard time keeping those sand filters, the equipment inside them, the sand and the plates inside. They have been punished through the years just because of flooding and hurricanes flooding due to hurricanes or just natural major rain events. I've pushed 38 million gallons through this plant during hurricane levels. Our plant's rated for 14.2. And the only reason why we had to push that water through there was because we had no choice. We couldn't send it out into the ponds. We could not send it out to the river unless it's been treated. And if we stopped doing that, it would back up into the city. And of course, then if that would have happened, then we wouldn't be doing our job protecting the citizens and protecting our environment. That being said, to replace the filter process in here, the plates and the sand media, it'll cost roughly around $170,000. Okay, just in a normal maintenance practice, it's $70,000 just to remove the sand and put new sand in. And that's a normal practice that we do about every 5 to 7 years, depending on what happens during the year. If we get a lot of flooding, it might boost it up to where we have to replace it sooner. These are some of the issues you'll see that I'll show it to you when we go out there. Any questions on the sand filters? We have the belt press. We do water sludge that works hand in hand with the compost facility. It's 20 years old. Just one of the rollers, as it's aging, the equipment and the repairs are getting more expensive. Okay, what's happening? For instance, there's rollers on there, and you'll see that when you go out there. We just had one replaced. Just one roller was $20,000. That's just a part. Okay. As we go on, and I'm not saying that all these rollers will fail, but there's 25 rollers on each one of these belt presses, okay? You're looking at $800,000 just to replace a belt press. And it's a necessity for the compost facility. And then we come to the UV structure. This is our disinfection system before we go out to the river. We have to disinfect the water. If this fails, we can chemically do it, but it's not cost effective. As you can see, if it would cost $1,700 per day just to disinfect the effluent. Now, we've done that if there was a failure on the UV structure, but if we had to do this on a day-to-day basis, we could almost practically replace the whole system in 2 years, just by using chemicals alone. Right now, chemicals are expensive, and you'll see that at the water plant. They have tanks which they're having issues with just pricing of chemicals due to the fact that they go with the fuel prices. Right now, we're struggling with them going to skyrocket. They're not erratic. They just keep going up and up and up, and we don't know when it's going to stop at that aspect. So using chemicals is not the way to go. With this UV system, as you know, electronics, they pretty much go out in about 10 years. This is a 20-year system. If I have to use parts for this system, they're either A, expensive, or they have to retrofit the lamps inside the system, okay? And then we come to the compost facility. I gotta say, they maintain this equipment very well. The agitator, it's in a very aggressive environment, I should say. It's going Monday through Friday, and it's a big piece of equipment where it's taking the sludge and yard amendment and mixing it every day. And we have to rehabilitate it every now and then to do that. Usually most of it's done in-house, but you're looking at that needs to be done there. A bulldozer, why does Burke need a bulldozer for a compost facility? We have front end loaders. If you notice that the compost facility takes in leaves pretty much all month long except for all year long except for 3 months out of the year, okay? They have to move these leaves. And using a front end loader to move these leaves is very dangerous, because what happens when they pile it up, they form pockets. And what happens is the front end loader is very large, it'll tip over, or it'll get stuck. With the bulldozer, it's on tracks, we can push it. The staff rents one once a month just to push the stuff out of the way when it's available. To do that, it's about $4,000 a month just to rent a bulldozer and keep my staff safe.
Mr. Bird.
Yes.
I have a question. And at one time, did they steal the compost pad? Didn't they sell compost to the public? Was that ever?
They bag it, and the reason why they never actually sold it to the folks, to the city folks, is because of the fact it's a safety issue. Because of the front end loaders that are rolling around out there, they were afraid that basically someone would get hurt, and we don't want that liability that's out there. But they do bag it, and what they do is they sell it to, for instance, Lowe's or any nursery, and then you can purchase it there. Other than that, that's basically how for a regular citizen. Mostly it's done through contractors.
How lucrative do you think it would be for maybe investing in like a bucket or some type of truck that could dump it safely and make a return monthly? Do you think that would be an option that would bring money, or that wouldn't be?
Not necessarily. I see what you're saying, but I don't think that's a money-making type thing to do, because you're looking at citizens that'll come out maybe March, February, and then that'll be done.
Just to clarify real quick, you mentioned compost, so do y'all still sell mulch, or did you stop that too?
No, we have mulch too. Yeah, well, when I say compost facility, that's the main purpose, but we do have mulch too, yes.
So can citizens still go out there with a truck? And it's springtime, I mean, for the last 5 years, I've gone out there with a truck and.
Yes, they do have mulch for that. And the reason being, in February, they do give it out because of the fact it's old and we have to get rid of it as soon as possible because we ran it through so many times. We try to get rid of those piles so we have fresh mulch up there. And Mr. Rowe will discuss this a little bit about the rate stuff.
Good morning, yeah. Most of these slides you'll have seen in some form or another from the Stantec rate study that we presented to you in December of 21. Some of the numbers have been updated and some of them have. This slide is straight from the some of these numbers are just straight from the study, such as this one here. And you'll see what happens as we keep going out. This is if you do everything, all that was identified on the capital improvements program for the next 10 years. If you do all of that, this is what happens. If your rates currently will capture about a little under $17.4 million per year at the current rates in water and sewer. So your capital expenses, this is what you can expect in each year. So you can see here, revenues are being outstripped by expenses. That's FY22. We've taken care of that, so this has really moved a year. So every year, somewhere between 4 and 5 million, but as it gets further on out, these numbers get bigger, the deficits. And these are, then you add these together. So come the time you're out here, you're talking a lot of money that will be in the red for. So what that means really then is that you just won't be able to do those capital improvements. Or any capital improvements that you do will have to be done with grants. But the usual way you fund water and sewer projects is through the state revolving fund, the SRF funds, at a low interest rate, somewhere around 2.5% a year typically. So this is what would happen if you didn't raise rates at all and you wanted to do all your capital, which no, can't do that. So I edited this a little bit from the Stantec study. Basically, they captured all the capital, the spreadsheets or multi-page spreadsheets that they have. This is basically a summary of that. Slight update. Originally, they had the water reclamation facility. If you go back and look at the slide, it would have said 35 million, but that was a 2000 figure. It's more than double that now. If you add one of those circular tanks and add about 3.5 million gallons per day to the plant. Then, if you look at the water treatment plant, that shows the construction in FY28, about 95 million. But the bottom line is the total over the next 7 odd years is about 218 million, and that's basically what we're guessing at the moment, because until you actually go out for bid, you're not actually going to know what happens with the bid. Bobby, you want to speak to this?
I can, yeah. So, Bobby Crane, Engineering Department. So this is just a quick snapshot of some of the current projects we're doing today to kind of help us paint a picture of where we need to be. So the first two are AIA projects that you've seen come through City Council that have been on the agenda and been approved. We received grants for both of those projects. Both of those are $150,000. We do have a 1% or 1.5% fee that is associated with it, but certainly we're leveraging our money to get these studies done. The third one is the wastewater what we call MRF, merger regionalization feasibility study. Along those same lines, there was another $100,000 grant that the city was able to get with just a 1.5% fee associated with it. And then you see some of the projects that we're going to be prioritizing through the ARP monies that we'll be getting, through the VUR, which is the Viable Utility Reserve. Each city will have a $15 million cap for what they can apply for. That doesn't mean you're going to get $15 million, but we're certainly going to apply for what we can from these projects. We still have to have some discussions in-house about what those priorities need to be, but this is a small snapshot of what we're looking at. The Water System Improvements Project, we'll just call it the New Hope Road High Pressure Zone project. We had originally scoped that in 2017 as a $3.6 million project. That's currently a loan that the city has. We're looking at possibly making that one of our ARP projects so that we can use grant money rather than loans, right? Free money is better than making the city pay for it down the road. The problem with that is, because we've waited several years to do it, that cost has gone from approximately $3.61 million to about $6 million. So, as everybody knows, and I know you're getting beat over the head with over these next couple of days, construction costs, fuel costs, contractor costs, everything has gone up. And we recognize that your job is trying to fit, that square peg into a round hole with this budget. So, but we're trying to give you an accurate snapshot of what we're having to deal with and what we're looking at from a project standpoint. Any questions about those? Thank you.
Just going back and revisiting this 218 number. Some of this obviously can be done with ARPA funds. We've got about possibly 19 million that we might be able to spend on that. So we've got discretionary funds in, which the manager will talk about tomorrow, with the current release of our 8.6 million, of which you might spend about half of that one way or another on some of this capital needs, some of these capital needs. And then there's possibly another 15 million that you might get coming through the state, but still it would be that's possibly coming in the future. Obviously, we haven't been awarded that yet, but hopefully we'll get a good portion of that. So that might reduce that number closer to about 200 million. Those are in grants that we can identify now. So again, might be able to do some of this with grant money, but vast majority of water and sewer, unfortunately, is done through SRF or something similar to that.
So just to clarify, SRF are loans, of which you're going to need utility rates to pay for.
Oh yeah, yes, absolutely. State revolving fund loans. Yeah. Okay, so this slide here is basically, it's edited from Stantec, but you've seen this before, basically seen this before. To do everything that we want to do, water plant, new water plant, the addition of the wastewater train, the extra tank, I&I, all of that, do that. Stantec basically said that you need to start raising your rates in this coming fiscal year and raise them, as you can see these numbers here, 20, then 15, then 15, then 12, then 10. What that'll do for you is, if you look at the penultimate line, or the second one from the bottom, the annual shortfall or surplus starts out in the negative, but it quickly begins to go positive, and then these cumulative funds can be used to pay off debt. So that's, you've seen basically a variation of that slide. There was one slide that's missing that didn't make it in there. It's a very important one though. And what would happen if you didn't raise your rates and you didn't do any capital at all, except the routine maintenance that Bert talks about, and maybe some some capital that might be funded through grants. So in the coming fiscal year, you'll have a cumulative shortfall of about 1.31 million. By the time you get to FY27, it'll be 10.64 million. And in FY21, or 31 rather, it'll be 26 million. That'll be your shortfall if you don't do any additional capital except from grants. Okay? So even if you do nothing, it looks like you have to raise rates. Questions?
Can you go back one slide, Ro?
Yes.
Just to point out, with putting the American Rescue Plan, 2.6 million has already been accounted for into FY23, you're still needing a 20% rate increase in order to get rates up to about the average of Eastern North Carolina, which is right around $81, $82 to pay to start saving for these requirements. Correct?
That's correct. So basically, the bottom line is you have to raise your rates no matter what you do. Even if you do nothing, you still have to raise them, otherwise you're going to be in serious, serious debt later on. And the longer you leave it, the worse it gets, because it's that much revenue that you haven't collected. Other questions? And on that happy note,
Thank you, Ro.
So, you've heard the presentation on our water system, and I had discussed with the council, some of the council members, not everybody, just in passing, but about taking a tour out to two facilities. And because we are restricted to the numbers of council members that can be together, broken it down into two groups. I actually went with Bert on Friday to both of these locations and previewed what you will see. So at this time, what we plan to do is to divide the 6 remaining council members up into 2 groups of 3 at your choice. One will go with one group, one guide, the other group will go to the other, and you'll go out and look at the situation on the ground. They'll discuss the issue with you, and then we would reconvene back here at 1 o'clock. So do I have any comments or questions about this? Who's taking which groups?
I'll take a group to the water treatment plant,
Okay.
and then Bert and Octavius and Ro can lead a group over to the water reclamation facility, and then we'll swap after about a half an hour at each place, and then we'll come back for lunch, and we'll reconvene at 1 o'clock.
Okay. I'll let y'all decide how you want to. Excuse me? Okay. Okay, well, I'll recess till 1 o'clock momentarily. Then you can determine who you want to go with, and then take off and be back. And we'll reconvene at 1 o'clock. So